Welcome to the Foil Life Podcast, where we talk about foiling and the lifestyles of those who enjoy these great sports. All right, man. Thanks for joining us on the show today. It's an honor to meet you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Stoked to be recording.
I think Matt was looking up some stuff on Instagram and he saw some of your videos from Hood and they were absolutely unreal. So he was like, man, we got to talk to this kid.
Yeah, Hood River is such an excellent trip to do. For us, for being from Hawaii, I mean, for people who live on the mainland, it's even easier. But being in Hawaii, to get anywhere besides the outer islands, the closest thing is the mainland, which is a 5-hour flight. So pretty much to go anywhere in the world, you have to commit to flying somewhere to, go on a trip, whether it's surfing or foiling. But for me, I see the Hood River trip as the easiest, most satisfying, and cost-effective surf trip you can do because it's a 5-hour flight to Portland, an hour drive from Portland Airport to the river. You can go for 2 days and be more than satisfied after 2 days of riding, and then fly home and all do that, with less than $1,500. So
True.
for me, it's cost-effective, it's easy, and it's like probably the funnest thing to do on just any given week when you're bored.
And the conditions are phenomenal there. It's so cool, especially for foiling.
That place was made for foiling. I mean, if you think about it, all the different sports that take place in the river, kite surfing, wing foiling, wind surfing, these are all things that are wind driven because Hood River is such a wind sports attraction. But only 5 years ago, when the foil was introduced to the scene in Hood River, downwind subfoil or para-winging, whatever sport you're doing on a foil, that was what thrived the most in the river because you have these river waves that aren't strong enough to really surf or paddle in on, but they're just strong enough to ride foils on them. And it's strong enough where you can do turns and cutbacks and feel like you're surfing a wave versus just riding a downwind chop. And I joke that it's the ultimate surf trip and the most satisfying surf trip you'll ever do. Not even close to the ocean.
Coming from Waikiki as well, the infamous wave break.
I mean, for me, it's so novelty and so different. My whole life I grew up surfing, small waves in Waikiki, and I mean big waves on the North Shore too. But it's all waves and there's some wind, but open ocean downwind energy. It's nothing like artificial wave pool Hood River type swells.
True.
So
okay.
it's what it feels like. It feels like surfing a wave pool because that place is so perfect. The swells are so predictable, and the forecasting is like really easy to read. If it's windy, it's a guarantee the river's going to be good. There's no tides or X factors you have to worry about. There's no sharks that are going to eat you.
True.
On top of that, the river is only half of the trip. The other half of the trip is hanging out in this Pacific Northwest town, small town, not that many people. Everyone has Sprinter vans. Coffee scene is great.
That's true.
You're in the forest. You're riding a hoverboard down a river with pine trees on each side. It's just straight out of a made up storybook that you can't really comprehend. Like, is this real? So it's so novelty and so special that half of the trip is just experiencing a completely new place like that.
My brother and I have been there a couple times for kiting and windsurfing, and it was the first time, I think it was pushing 35 to 40 knots one day, and there was an older lady, she must have been mid-60s, and she's coming in, like we think she's in trouble, but she's actually swapping her 4-meter kite for a 3-meter kite, and then she rips right back out. It's like, don't worry, boys, I'm going out on my 3 right now. I'm lit. It's like, holy shit.
So cool. I mean, like, that place is freaking so rad, and like, the scene of like older people, I don't want to say old folks, but I mean people, in their 60s, like you don't see a lot of 60-year-olds wing foiling or downwind foiling. So when you do see that there and see that kind of as the norm, that's pretty badass.
Yeah, I love to see it because I just turned 42 now. My brother's turning 40 in a couple weeks, in a month. And it's awesome to see people who have started it like at your age and kept it up all the way through, right? And have changed and modified and what it's done for their life. But Can we talk about the early days a little bit? Like, how young were you, and what was it like learning surfing at such a young age?
Yeah, so my story is I grew up in Waikiki. The house I'm in right now was built by my great grandfather in 1947. Whoa. So he's full Chinese. And in Hawaii, we have this thing where you can be full, whatever race you're. Let's take Chinese, for example. You can be full Chinese, but being local Chinese in Hawaii, you would look completely different than a 100% Chinese person from China. So there's this local Asian race it's almost like a spin-off of an actual Asian person. And you see it mostly with Asians because Asian people migrated to Hawaii during the plantation days to work on the pineapple fields. My great-grandfather was one of them. And where we live, right on the outskirts of Waikiki, or still in the Waikiki zip code, but right outside of it, that area back in the day was white missionaries only. So Caucasian, Haole people were the only ones who could live in that area, because this is still when segregation and racial discrimination was still a thing. And my grandfather, being full Chinese, even though that's not your standard African American kind of criticism, he was still part of a group of people that were had prejudice against them, right? So being full Asian, he wasn't really allowed to just come into this neighborhood to build a house wherever he wanted to. So he had to go through leaps and bounds to be able to be seen as an equal and be able to get a sponsorship from the missionary white man to build in this area. So he conquered all these challenges and got past that and established himself in the neighborhood, built this house that I'm in right now. And I'm the fourth generation to live in this house, and it's part of the family. So
an honor.
It just so happens my grandfather, great grandfather has gone through a lot, and not a lot of people realize that, but prejudice and discrimination isn't just between white and black races, it's between all these different races. And especially in Hawaii back in the day, there was a lot of that. I mean, even Duke Kahanamoku, the grandfather of modern day surfing, faced a lot of discrimination back in the day from white missionary men. And so aside from that, fourth generation in this house, but it just so happens we're in the most perfect location in the world for learning how to surf. Waikiki is a 3-minute drive that way, and Diamond Head, the next part of the island, is a 3-minute drive that way. So I'm right in the middle. Each day I decide which way I want to go depending on what the conditions are doing, right? And Waikiki is also where every kid learns how to surf. So my dad's a surfer. My grandfather and my parents, they grew up going down to Waikiki to surf and boogie board or enjoy the ocean. So just it's appropriate that me and my brothers do the same thing. But at a young age of 5. Dad took us down. He would push us in the waves on the longboard, and we would learn, 25 yards off the shore at Waikiki, getting pushed into small waves. And that's my early memories of surfing. And I like to say I'm a product of my environment. I suppose if I lived on the mainland, I would be a completely different person, or lived in a place where there were no waves or ocean, I'd be completely different, right? You adapt to whatever your surroundings are. So for me, I had the world-class Waikiki beach right there. Learned how to surf by the time I was 10. I was surfing longboard on my own after school. That was my activity. I'd come home from school at 2:00 and my mom would drop me off at the beach, or I'd walk down to the beach with my longboard. And it wasn't until I was 13 years old. I was longboard every day, and I was pretty good at it. I thought I would go professional longboard or some route regarding longboard surfing, but I would see these guys, the early guys, foiling the same waves that I was longboarding Waikiki, because they're both softer waves, good foil waves and good longboard surfing waves. And I just remember these guys were flying on a hoverboard around me, and I'm sitting on my longboard just like, look at this. This looks like the coolest thing ever. But I also knew that the price point was, was pretty steep. And, we were a stable family growing up, but we weren't never considered ourselves wealthy or anything. We kind of had just enough to get by, but my parents definitely didn't have money to just throw out at me and my brothers for whatever toys we wanted. So we kind of knew that a fancy toy, that wasn't really an option. And I was, my dad we'd be lucky to get a surfboard once a year or something. So that kind of was something that I quickly wrote off as like, oh, I'm never having enough money to do that. And sure enough, I was 13. Christmas came along. We went to the used surfboard shop, and there's a foil setup sitting there for $500.
Oh,
and at the time, you know, it's $500 at the time. All the other ones were 3,000. And my dad looked at it, it's $500, sure thing. Like, here we go. Like, this is the best deal I'm ever gonna find. And I told my dad, I was like, Dad, I would love one like for Christmas. And Dad got it for me so gratefully. And I got my $500 made in China setup. It was bigger person shortboard, and there's 2 longboard boxes that were glassed into the board. So it was like a big shortboard that was configured for a foil. And the foil I learned on, it was like an Alibaba special.
No way.
It was carbon fiber, all black, but not a single logo on it. So I would always research, like, I want to know what kind of foil I'm riding, but it was just like the most one of a kind Alibaba special that made in China, just no name brand. And so I learned how to do it on that, and very quickly I got addicted to the feeling of flying and the feeling of hoverboarding. And I remember selling that one, using that money, scrapped up a few extra dollars I had, and I would do the buy and sell thing. So,
yeah,
you know, sell that and buy the Cloud 9, which was the best one at the time. I had the Cloud 9. And John Amundsen, one of my mentors and shapers on the North Shore, Amundsen Customs. Some people, I'm sure, have heard of his brand because he was one of the first foil board brands out there making custom boards. But he kind of gave me a board to start, and he knew my dad. He's like, here you go, here your son's into it. So he kind of sponsored me with some free boards from a young age and kind of got this career started. So that happened. And then I remember fast forward like a couple years after learning how, I won a lift foil in a raffle. It was a contest in Waikiki.
No way.
My name was pulled from the raffle, and I got this Lift 200. And that's kind of what really took off, because at the time, the Lift 200 surf, that was like the sickest one. You could pump it, you could turn it, I could do everything on it. And that's when I really learned how to ride a foil. Fast forward a year after that, Lift Foils sponsored me. That was my first sponsor in 11th or in 10th grade high school.
Hey, congratulations on Lift. Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, Lift Foil. So like those, I owe it to those guys for really getting me started. Matt Elsasser, my team manager at the time, coolest guy, and he saw the potential in me, I guess, when I was 15 years old, and gave me my first paycheck to ride for them. And I at the time, everything was happening so fast that I didn't expect getting paid to ride a hydrofoil was even an option. And I'm in 10th grade, right? No one's ever given me money in my life. I would steal my brother's dollar bills to buy a smoothie down the road or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, after never seeing money in my entire life, I see money from this foil sport, and that's when the gears started to turn, like, oh, this could be an option to, you know, throughout my young years of my early adulthood, make some money. And I stuck with it. My deal with Lyft came to an end. Just, you know, naturally as relationships grow apart. F1 Foils picked me up, and now I'm on my 3rd year with F1. Just signed another 2 years, which I'm super stoked on.
They're a good team over there.
Yeah, great team. Julian Sals and the whole crew that runs F1. They're family brand. They make arguably some of the best products in the industry, and they put a lot of effort into, you know, producing the best. So now present day, that's where I am, and that's my story of how I started, you know, getting into the foil thing.
It's pretty amazing, right? That if you focus on too much on the money, or you focus too much on something else, that if you're meant to get into something, a way will be found, or you'll win a raffle, or somebody will buy you something for Christmas, or like you have no idea, right? Like we always get caught. I was listening to an episode with Hulk Hogan, and he was saying that the most important thing for everybody is just to focus on what it is that you're thankful for, that you have, like, and then just allow things to come into your life that way. Anyways, it kind of reminded me of that story.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, this is a whole different topic, the conversation, you know, but one branching onto that, after traveling around the world and seeing so many different places and peoples and cultures, just to have to say that you're able to foil or enjoy the ocean or or be able to have a roof over your head, that already puts you in the top 10% of people in the world, right?
Yeah.
So being able to enjoy the sport just like everyone else, it's like you were so blessed to say that you ride a hoverboard in your free time. Like not many people can say that, and if you really think about it, that's what it is, right? So yeah, for me, just grateful to be in this position. And I think from a young age, as a Grom, every Grom's dream is to be a professional surfer, including mine. And everyone wants. I grew up Kelly Slater, John Florence, Andy Irons. Those are all my biggest heroes that I think everyone else can agree with me. Everyone idols them. And I've always wanted to be a professional surfer, but I wasn't the best surfer growing up. I grew up with super talented kids with Billabong, Rip Curl, Ruka stickers on the nose of their board when we were 10 years old. And I didn't learn how to shortboard surf until I was 14 years old. So I always felt like I was behind the curve and almost jealous in a sense of, I'll never make it to where they are, or I'll never have that sticker on the nose of my board, or I'll never win that contest. But still having that dream of being a professional, and it, was foiling and the internet and just a perfect storm of everything. Like I said, product of my environment. All these things have come together. And now I am a professional surfer in a different way than what I thought a professional surfer looked like, right? I ride hydrofoils, but I still get paid to do what I love, which is, for me, my biggest dream come true. So it's really something that I wake up every day and pinch myself like, oh my gosh, is this real?
We're so stoked for you that you're able to live out this dream. And looking at the differences of like longboarding and shortboarding and foiling, for you personally, what is it that differentiate those sports for you? Is it a different feeling of freedom foiling, or is it?
My main goal is to ride like wave riding waves. And I know it's super cliche to say like, oh, I just want to enjoy the ocean in every type of condition. But when it comes down to it, it goes a little deeper than that. Growing up in Hawaii, especially Waikiki, there's such a rich surfing culture in Waikiki because of Kahanamoku and the original Waikiki Beach Boys, who kind of pioneered what it looks like to work on the beach, live on the beach, live a beach lifestyle. And the native Hawaiians and the Polynesians were so centered around the ocean, but mainstream modern day surfing didn't really become popular until Kahanamoku pioneered it with traveling around the world to show what surfing was, because he started surfing here, but he went to places like Australia and California to show that, surfing can be done anywhere. So a pioneer like that, being from the same place I live in, that's already a big inspiration. And then if you go back to see how the Beach Boys did it back in the day, they would surf the canoe in Waikiki. They would surf big wooden surfboards, and they would fish, dive. They were watermen, and their lifestyle was centered around the ocean. So they weren't just surfers; they were ocean people. And same thing goes with on the west side of Oahu. Some of the greatest names in the ocean world: Brian Keaulana, Buffalo Keaulana. The west side is known for producing watermen. So in Hawaii, you have this kind of genealogy and background of people and who enjoy the ocean and are well versed in the ocean. So for me, it's being able to fit that mold, and by only doing surfing, or let's say you only shortboard or only do longboard or only foil, whatever it is, you're cutting yourself off to all the different possibilities there are to enjoy the ocean. And I think at the end of the day, everyone's priority is to have fun. My number one priority in life is how can I have as much fun as possible while, getting exercise, maintaining a healthy lifestyle. And for me, that's getting on the ocean as much as I can. So if I have the option to ride a longboard when the waves are good for it, I'm going to go do that. But then also when the waves are pumping, I want to go shortboard surf, because for me, that's the chorus thing to do. And, that's surfing, right? And it's also a really hard thing to do. So I like to practice that. Right. And then when it's pumping wind, just like today, you go ride your foil, and the foil is kind of the missing link to everything, because you can ride a longboard and whenever it's, good, and you can ride your shortboard, you can go paddle canoe, you can go sailing, whatever it is in Hawaii you can do. But the foil bridges the gap between riding waves that aren't really powerful enough to surf and, open ocean conditions where maybe before foiling you would go sailing or paddle your canoe or something, but now you can surf or wave ride in all conditions thanks to the foil. So to answer your question, what gets me going with having all these different crafts is being able to get out on the water every day, have fun, but also honoring or acknowledging where you come from and realizing that all the greatest guys who came before you did the same thing. And if they had a foil back in their day, you best know that they would be on it, right?
Yeah, I definitely would. Now, to get picked up by brands like Lyft and F1, you started competing, I'm assuming, like to get into some competitions?
Yeah, so like competition with the foil in the early days was like pretty trial and error. I mean, it was unclear what the best format was, but the reason why I kind of got into this local spotlight, or I guess put myself in that spotlight, was the Duke's Ocean Fest happens every year in Waikiki, and it's a 7-day contest to remember Duke Kahanamoku and pay homage to the Duke Foundation, or the name, right? So from surfing, longboard, to the 1 mile swimming race, to beach volleyball, surfboard, water polo, every single sport they had this a category for it in the competition, and they included foiling. I believe it was 2019 or 2020. So they included foiling in the Dukes Fest, which rightfully so has a place in the festival. But I remember I entered it for the first time, and I think it was a team event. My team ended up winning the contest, and that's where I won the raffle for that lift foil. And
that's what got you in there.
Yeah, so that's kind of what got me into it. And then all the representatives from the brands, the foil brands, were at that contest. So they saw me win the foil, but then they also saw me and my team members win the team format event. So that's kind of where my first introduction to the industry spotlight came. And then from there, Matt Elsasser gave me a chance with lift foils, and that's kind of where it sparked. And then I didn't have a cell phone until I was in 8th grade. My dad made it very clear, no phones until 8th grade. So I didn't have an Instagram. So when I got a phone, I downloaded Instagram because I told my dad, I was like, all my friends have Instagram and they have sponsors and thousands of followers. I mean, frick, I was, 8th grade, you're like 13 or 14 years old. And some of my friends who were the same age as me already had 20,000 followers on Instagram and were 14, 15, years old. Wow. So I was like, Dad, this is the thing. The internet's popping off. I need a phone so I can get Instagram so I can start posting my footage. And, I explained to him, I can maybe get a sponsor one day that can give me free stuff so we don't have to buy this gear anymore. And my dad's like, all right, well, here's your phone, here's Instagram. And he kind of just let me do it. Let me figure it out. My dad is a huge advocate for figure it out yourself and make mistakes and learn. Not very hands off. And so I got Instagram, downloaded the app, and started just posting my foil and surf videos on there. And it took off, and I just kept consistent with it. And now we have, I wouldn't consider myself famous on Instagram, but being able to post on Instagram and represent a brand through the internet gives me a career. So it all ended up working out, and I'm grateful.
Well, I looked at your first YouTube video that you posted, and you had 30, you had some really good numbers. Here, let me look at that real quick. So that's crazy.
So the YouTube thing goes back to when I was 5 years old. My dad is I guess you could say a celebrity within Hawaii. He's the local news anchor, so he's a public figure.
No way. Oh, that's awesome.
So my whole life and now the news looks a little different with the internet and Instagram and having a phone and, social media. But 15 years ago, everyone watched TV and everyone would watch my dad on the news. So we would go walk around go to the supermarket or be in public, and everyone would be stopping him for photos. Oh, are you Kiahi? And me being 5 years old, I would see that and pick up on that from a young age. So I would always learn and see how my dad interacted with people, and also watching him on TV, I learned how to speak from that and how to speak in public and how to greet other people and whatnot. And I was super into Legos as a kid. Legos, fire trucks, and Hawaiian Airlines airplanes were my 3 top things in the world that mattered the most to me. And I would watch people do Lego reviews online. And me being 5 years old, I told my dad I want to do that, and my dad goes, all right. He created a YouTube channel, and he put his phone out like that, hold it up. I would sit there on the couch with my abstract Lego design, and I would always base my Lego designs off of Hawaiian Airlines planes and Honolulu Fire Department trucks.
No way.
So I would
awesome.
build these freaking these things out of Legos, and if I didn't have the right color, I would take the Sharpie and I would Sharpie in the side of the airplane. I would write Hawaiian Airlines, the logos. Like, I was very specific about it, and told my dad, I want to do YouTube. So he would record me with his phone. Keep in mind, smartphones just came out, right? It's like the iPhone 4, like the one step after the BlackBerry, right? That's like my early memories. So he had his little like Android junkalunk phone recording me, and I was there. I could barely speak. I was 5 years, like, or maybe even 4, like kindergarten, like maybe right after preschool. Like, I was still having a hard time speaking or learning how to talk well. And I would, in my high pitched voice, my intro line was, "Hello, watchers." And
that's sweet.
And if you post this anywhere where you can link, I'll try to send you the link to my
send us video.
Do it. From 4 or 5 years old, I would go, "Hello, watchers. Welcome back to another one of my videos. Today we're going to be reviewing the Honolulu City and County Lego collection. This is the helicopter, and this is the truck." And so I would do all of that, and my dad would post them on the internet. So if you look deeply, a lot of my childhood is on the internet. Yo-yo tricks. I was really into yo-yo when I was 9 years old. So I would, "Hello, watchers. Today I'm going to teach you guys how to do the yo-yo trick. Today we're going to learn how to sleep the yo-yo and do my thing."
Just a natural.
And, so I was just doing it since I was a kid, because I would look at people doing it on the internet and say, "Dad, I want to be just like them. Like, I want to do that." All right. And my dad was always just like, "Yep, whatever you want, son. Like, we're going to try it." Like, it was never, "Well, those people are famous and you're not. You're never going to be there." Right. My dad, no matter what, he was like, "Okay, yep. Like, if you want to do that, we're going to figure out how we're going to accomplish that." So from a young age, I'm doing YouTube. And then right around middle school, when you start to hit puberty and finally your friends become judgmental, I stopped all of that, because I was like, "Dad, I can't be I'm 12 years old or 11 years old. I'm the man in 6th grade.
I'm
like, I
cool,
can't be,
Dad."
Yeah, I'm cool. I can't be on the internet showing off my Legos. That's lame. And but when I started Instagram, I would make these videos, and from a young age, I would edit all of them myself, because that same kind of feeling of watching people do something and saying, "I want to do that." It was that same thing, but just with surfing. So I would watch Kailani, John Florence, all my surfing idols make these cool videos, and I would just copy them. If Kai or John made a certain video about explaining their gear, I would do the same exact thing with my phone. I would selfie it, and I would record myself talking, "Well, this is what I'm riding today." And then I would get the video of me riding it, and I would go into my iMovie and try my best to learn how to do it and make it and post it. So started doing that with Instagram. And then at a certain point, I was like, "Yeah, well, let's just try YouTube." Like, I was already YouTubing since I was 4 years old, but like, maybe if I actually do it now, I can make it kind of cool. So I did that first downwind YouTube video. Well, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know what the date was, 2020. I'd say. And that one blew up. "Downwinding in Hawaii" was the title. That one blew up. I think there's like 10,000 plus views on that. And then kind of just, the tricky thing about YouTube is, to do it properly, you need resources, right? You need someone to film you, which means you got to pay a friend to film you, because no one wants to just slave their day pointing the camera at you for free. And then you need enough footage to put something together, because oftentimes you may get one cool video of you, but that's not enough for an entire episode. So I would try my best throughout the years to do it, but it was inconsistent. And only like last year, I started getting enough resources to make these videos somewhat consistent. And now I have a full-time filmer who's also my best friend that we work together. That's a totally different story, but now we're working together and making the YouTube uploads consistent. And for me, Instagram is something that I get paid to do. In my contracts, it says that you have to post on Instagram, because that's how I mean, almost every surf contract expects the athlete to post the brand on Instagram. That's just how you represent, right?
Yep.
And but a lot of my contract, the contracts that I have, like nothing says YouTube, because YouTube is kind of like, not everyone can be a YouTube personality, but everyone is expected to at least do the bare minimum, which is post on Instagram. So the YouTube now has become a passion project for me of how can I dump all my late night thoughts when I'm trying to go to sleep at night. My mind is just racing of ideas and storyboards and visions of how I can make a great video depending on what sport or activity I'm doing. So I get to dump all of those thoughts into YouTube. And now everything that we upload on YouTube is just 100% passion. I don't get paid for it. In fact, I lose money doing YouTube, but I just love doing it so much because my goal is to look back and show my kids this is what I did when I was your age, because my parents, they had photos of them when they were my age, but for the most part, I have no idea what my parents were into when they were teenagers or young adults. I don't really know what they looked like. I don't know what they sounded like. I don't know what they did. And for me, if I can show my kids one day, this is my entire childhood up until, you were born. If that's on the internet and I can show them, then I'd be so proud and so stoked. So
yeah,
that's kind of the main reason why I do it, just for my digital scrapbook.
Yeah, that's such a cool thing. And to be able to bring through your kids like that later. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Could we walk through like maybe your Mexico or like New Zealand? Like how were those trips, and how was that filming that? And what was your kind of motivation or storytelling behind that?
Well, for sure. I think we have to start though at how me and my filmer kind of came to be.
Yeah, let's do it.
Story kind of sets up, now into the future. So pretty much everything you're going to see for the next however many years is going to come from this story. But my buddy Kainoa, we met when we were 10 years old. His dad was a professional bodyboarder back in the day, Lance and Ronk. And every kid in Hawaii grows up. The surfing trajectory is you start at the Waikiki wall, which is a boogie board only spot. So we would all go to boogie board there when we were kids, right? So we met there at the Waikiki wall boogie boarding. His dad was a bodyboarder, so he of course was a really good bodyboarder. And then we ended up going to school together. But from middle school to high school, we had entirely different friend groups. He was a track star. I was a surfer. And his dad is a foiler, a really good foiler who just is part of the local crew here. So I was closer to his dad than I was with him. And we still stayed in touch throughout high school. Fast forward to college, he went to run track at Babson University on the East Coast. I stayed home in Hawaii. And we went to Japan this winter to snowboard because we both love snowboarding. And we had an epic trip in Japan. That was the first time he snowboarded proper powder to his waist, pretty much. And just bottomless powder riding. That's the first time he's ever experienced that. And I kind of was stoked to give him that experience. And after that, he was telling me, he's like, hey, man, like, this is so fun, but like, I'm not doing too well in school. I mean, the mental health of being on the mainland, on the East Coast, like that's from being from Hawaii. That's a huge shock, right?
Huge.
So I told him, I said, hey, bro, if you ever need anything, you call me. And if you ever need a job, you also let me know, because I'm looking for some guy to film for me. And you have what it takes. I mean, I know you're starting out, but I'm also starting out. And I told him, I'll pay you a livable young adult salary, or just to give you enough money to get by, right? To make sure that everything is covered where you don't have to worry about getting a job, right? I want to give you a job. And just making sure that he knows that he's covered. And he's like, yeah, man, thanks so much. Like, kind of told you I'll let you know, right? And most of the times when someone tells you I'll let you know, that's just an open-ended thing where maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. So I go on, he goes back to school, and a week later I get a call. Hey, bro, this school's not working out. I'm not doing too good mentally, and my mental health is on the decline. I need to come home ASAP. I said, all right, I'm actually not home right now. I'm in Japan. Meet me in Japan tomorrow. And he's like, oh, I can't do tomorrow, but how about 3 days? So I said, sure thing. 3 days later, he shows up in Japan. This is, keep in mind, 2 weeks after we were already in Japan. So 3 days later, he shows up in Japan. We have like the sickest snowboard trip ever. And we come home and I tell him, all right, bro, like, here's $1,000. I gave him $1,000 just for him to kind of get started with, paying off whatever stuff he had to pay off from his schooling or whatever it was, right? So I gave him $1,000 and I said, let's start putting effort into this. And the first stop was New Zealand. So he got all his camera gear. I helped him. We bought a drone together, basically pooled our finances, spent as much money as we could on all the best camera gear and adding on to the camera quiver he already had. We went to New Zealand. Our good friend lives there, Josh Hers, and he invited us. He said, hey, boys, I just saw a crazy swell at this wave called Shipwrecks, North Island, New Zealand. I was like, all right, like I've been in New Zealand for 3 days to visit Josh before, but that's about it. So 3 days in New Zealand is equivalent to, like basically never have been there before. Mm-hmm. And I tell Kainoa, I said, hey, bro, like we're freaking going to New Zealand next week. I bought him a plane ticket. I said, you're coming. We're going to make a cool video, surfing, foiling, and hanging out. Like, let's do it. And say, all right. So we go to New Zealand, have an epic time. Yeah, here we go. Chasing the fun tour. Yeah. So right here, we go to this wave that's just this perfect left-hand point break. And it's not the steepest, most like top to bottom wave, but for fun-wise, it's just like a low consequence, easy wave. And this is after snowboarding the entire winter. So this is like our first surf trip back. I haven't surfed in so long. And kind of rusty, but I go to New Zealand and score epic waves, bring my foil, score epic foil waves, and we just have so much fun. And this is Kainoa's first trip like out of college into his new life. So he films all of this on the drone we bought. It's a $700 drone from Costco. Does the job. And there's a foil section in here. This wave is about 2 minutes long. Yeah, right here. Right, yeah, that's the one.
There it is.
This is a 2 minute long wave. And it's just a perfect point break. And, I would go and I would just ride all the way down. And the scenery is incredible. I mean, look at that. New Zealand's just, it's such an insane place.
Yeah, the boys from North are from there. So they're like, dude, you got to come down and visit us in New Zealand. Yeah, it looks insane.
It's incredible. But Kainoa filmed all this, totally killed it, like surpassed every expectation I had of him. And then a week later, he said, hey, bro, here's the video. Like, just flipped it around. We posted it on YouTube. And this is our first, like, pretty much collab. And the song behind it is The Flirts, and the song is called Passion. And it's the song from our favorite snowboard video from Korua Shapes. And Korua Shapes, that's like what we watch before we get psyched up to snowboard. So that's the song we used. But that happened. We came home. We felt good after that trip. And then, just went to Oregon. I mean, she asked me what happened since then. I can't even tell you. It's such a blur because every single day we meet at my house pretty much in Waikiki. We meet at my house and we find out, okay, what are we going to do today? What are our goals for the week? What do we need to accomplish sponsor-wise? Making sure the sponsors are happy with the content that they need. And then the big picture that we discuss every time we're together is what's our vision? What's our goals for passion projects, and what do we want the videos to look like? So right now, Kainoa is actually in their living room right there. He's finishing up the Mexico edit that we're going to try and post tonight. But, but yeah, we basically just developed a dream team of my best friend, and it's just like, it's not even comprehensible to me. Like, I get to work with my best friend and make mini movies or mini films about what we do every day. It's just like, it blows my mind how the internet is giving us the opportunity to do that. And combining my talent of wave riding with his talent of cinematography, it's just the perfect clash and the perfect storm. So that's currently my content situation, and I couldn't be more happy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
An hour before we hopped on this call, we just bought a brand new MacBook Pro laptop. So we're super stoked on that, because that's the next thing we need to elevate ourselves, to make better videos.
I had to do the same thing last year for the podcast, actually. My old MacBook must have been 10 plus or 14 years old, and it just wasn't cutting it. But let's jump into your sponsors, because I know you just signed a new one, which is super exciting for you.
Yeah,
but
thanks.
We got F1 and then that Patagonia surf, man. That's huge.
So we basically, the F1 thing came 3 years ago. I'm on my third year with them, and they're such a great company in terms of caring about what they put out. I mean, it's one thing for a foil company to just put out a cool foil and have people buy them, but then for F1 to put like hours and hours of testing, communication between the riders, and put all that into a product, and then you see that product get released, knowing that, oh, I tested 5 versions of that wing, or I was that board was because I told them how I want my dream board to be, right? So to see your feedback actually get taken into account and put into a product, and then you get to ride that product, that's pretty insane. So shout out and kudos to Julian and the team at F1 for caring what I think enough to, put my feedback into a product. So that's my foil sponsor. So thankful for them allowing me to, they're the ones who have allowed me to, see the world and travel and go to all these crazy places and fund my adventures. So yeah, F1's great. If you guys are listening, thank you. But yeah, the newest one is Patagonia under the surf division. And,
no way.
Shoot, I never would have ever expected Patagonia or a brand like that to take interest in myself. And it's kind of a perfect storm because you have the surf industry going through a really rough time of, there's not a lot of money to be passed around. 10, 20 years ago, pretty much every surfer was making at least $100,000 from a clothing company, if not, $500,000 to the top guys that cracking $1 million a year. There's just so much money in surfing, and now it's a lot harder to quote unquote make it. And for me, I never would have imagined that I'd be in this spot. So like just another year renewing the contract is like, all right, like here we go again. This is like another dream come true, right? Because I never expected this to be a career or a job, and I still don't, right? So I'm a strong believer of having low expectations are always happy, right?
Yeah.
So, but then Patagonia comes along, and what's cool about them is that for the first time, I feel like someone or a company is supporting me for being myself. There's no mold that I have to fit. There's no ride this product or ride this type of board, or we're sponsoring you for shortboarding, or we're sponsoring you for foiling. More so, we're sponsoring you for being a good person and living your life. And I think for me, that's just like the biggest compliment that anyone could ever give me is sponsoring you for the kind of person you are and supporting you because the brand believes in your personality and the way you represent yourself. Because if you look at all the surfers out there, they could have picked from anybody who rips way harder than me, who foils way harder than me, who does all these things that are better than me. But for me, it's a true compliment to my personality and myself. So that's something that I'm just like tickled by. And the team at Patagonia is so great. For the most part, it doesn't feel like they need validation from social media or the internet. Everyone knows how badass of a company they are, that they just want to, they're really interested in supporting me, which is like, again, it's such a dream come true. So I don't know if someone from Patagonia is listening, thank you guys for supporting me and funding my life, right? Because, at the end of the day, it's pretty transparent, but like without money, you can't do anything. And in order to get a solid representation of your brand out there, or to get an athlete to represent your brand in the best way possible, there's got to be some sort of money in that the athlete needs to be supported.
Yeah, it's a vehicle. Yeah.
And the more the athlete is supported financially, and the more the athlete can put into representing the brand. So it's a direct translation between athlete and brands taking care of each other. And all my sponsors do a great job of that and make me feel like I'm worthwhile. And also it's the stuff that they give me and the opportunities that they give me is more than enough for me to just put 110% effort into representing the companies.
No, and Patagonia does so many good things around the world, and that's pretty amazing. And I wanted to also touch on your ambassadorship with Twinfin. hotel? Because I thought that was a really cool story that we talked about before.
Yeah. Thanks. So the Twinfin Hotel, that's an odd one because as a surfer, you never expect to be sponsored by a hospitality group, much less being a local in Waikiki, sponsored by a group that caters to non-locals, right? But being a part of the Twinfin Hotel, I see it as something. It's a acknowledgement as, oh, you come from this place that we do business in. We want someone who's authentic to Waikiki to represent our brand. So that's where I think they brought me on, as long as Khalees Kaleo Waikiki surfing royalty princess, if you might say. She's a longboard surfer from Waikiki, one of the best longboard surfers in the world. So she also does work with the Twinfin. But I got into the Twinfin because Kai Pacaro, my manager and mentor, also surfer foiler, he works for Parley, and he's the international, not international, but the Hawaii manager for Parley. Parley, if you don't know it, is a international sustainability awareness group that targets the root causes of problems and comes to the root of the problem instead of cleaning the beach and organizing cleanups. That's great, don't get me wrong, but there's the sustainability and pollution problem in the world goes so much deeper than just litter on the beach, right? So yeah, there we go. Parley for the oceans. So they do a great job of conducting worldwide events that promote sustainability and taking action. But they partnered up with the Twinfin Waikiki Hotel to make this partnership where tourists and visitors who come and stay at the hotel, they can learn about Parley and learn about the sustainable practices that goes into keeping a business like a hotel running. There's so much pollution and trash that comes. I mean, running a hotel, it's a no-brainer. I mean, you can look the other way on it, but being real and authentic and transparent, there's going to be plastic water bottles that gets used. There's going to be paper that gets used. And I think it's not about not using these things because, right now I'm drinking a coffee with I'm going to throw this away in the trash can after. But I also right here, I have my water bottle that I fill up every day where I could have a big plastic water bottle. But, choosing to do small things like that, one person isn't going to change the world by, not buying a plastic water bottle. That's silly to believe that. But I do believe that making small steps to, do what you can here and there to have better sustainable practices, that's important, right? So the hotel works with Parley to do that. And one example is when you walk into the hotel lobby, there are no plastic water bottle options to be bought. Instead, there's these big water bottle fill-up stations on every level of the hotel. You walk into your hotel room, and instead of a big plastic water bottle, there's reusable aluminum bottles. And after you're done, those bottles get put into, there's like a big bottle return thing in the lobby. Everyone puts their dirty bottles on this big cart, and those bottles actually get reused. They get cleaned out, relabeled if the label is, destroyed or whatever, or, you can't see the label. They get reused and refilled and back into hotels or hotel rooms. So basically the Twinfin Hotel, they're a hotel. They're never going to be completely 100% sustainable because you have to run a business. You have to have, X amount of health procedures to do it. So you gotta, at some point,
views,
yeah, great views. But at some point you gotta say, like, okay, we're not going to crack every single step to sustainability, but if we can make an effort to do at least a few of these things and do those things really well, then that's where the bigger impact is coming from, right? So being able to align yourself with a company that believes in similar things that you do. And also in my free time, I try my best to volunteer. If Parley has an event, I'll go to that just because that's what I believe in, not even if, screw the Instagram story of you posing up, being at that cleanup. How about you just go and do it because it's an afternoon with nothing to do, and that's probably the best use of your time. So these are things that I do anyway. So to be able to align yourself with a company that also wants to practice that and do that, it is cool. And also, not to mention, the hotel has a contract with Parley, and they fund Parley. So the money that Parley Hawaii gets to do these events comes from the hotel, and vice versa. So
Oh, that's awesome.
it's a synergistic partnership. I'm lucky enough to be in on it, and it works really good for me.
That's pretty amazing, man. What do you think about, because we saw that you mentioned that one day you want to be inducted into the Waterman Hall of Fame. So what would that mean to you, and what other kind of watermen have you looked up to that gave, because your vision at such a young age is, I guess it was it your dad that kind of helped shape how you think, and because you're bringing in not just like you're tapping into the history, and that means something to you, which is pretty special. Not everybody thinks that way.
Yeah, totally. For me, my parents gave me, like I said earlier, my parents, we didn't have, a ton of money growing up. We had enough to go to school and, have groceries in the fridge and have a roof over our heads, but it was never extra money floating around to, have every toy that I wanted. But where my parents did a really good job of was making sure we felt like we had all the love and support we wanted. So, within reason, there were very few no's. If I wanted to do something, my dad would say, yes, maybe we can't afford it, or maybe we can't get you the best equipment you need, but we can try our best and put you in the right environment to do it. Right. So, and that, that looked like my mom driving me to the beach every day with a secondhand used longboard that my dad bought me. Maybe I didn't have the nicest longboard, but my mom still took time out of her day to drive me to the beach every day. My dad, from, a young age of middle school to high school, if I wanted to do an idea, my dad would tell me, yeah, let me know how I can help you make that happen. So having these supportive parents kind of set me up, and then realizing that with support from your parents, you can chase your biggest dreams and goals and make them happen. Because if you told me, I'm living my dream right now, but if you told me 10 years ago, I would just have told you, well, that's such a big dream that's not going to happen. Or yeah, maybe it happened to Lenny and John Florence and, all these other pro surfers, but I'm not even close to those guys. So it's not going to happen to me. Right. So it's really easy to count that out. And I think I started going to the Waterman Hall of Fame event when I was 14 years old. And I remember going every year, I attended it, but I would go to the event and see all the biggest and baddest names in the surfing world and in the Hawaii world get inducted into the Hall of Fame. And they would speak. Carissa Moore, Shane Dorian, Dwayne DeSoto, Lenny, Keolanas, all these big names. And every year when that event happened, that was your one chance to go meet your heroes, right? Because I'd be 14 years old. And I remember so clearly the year Lenny was inducted. And this was before Kai and I were even friends. This was when I was just looking up to him, as a rider and as a person. But he was inducted. I remember shaking, Kai, nice to meet you. Congratulations. And I just remember how nice and approachable he was. And seeing these guys who are just your biggest heroes, and the saying, you never want to meet your heroes because you're always going to be disappointed. A lot of times that is true, but in, certain cases of the guys I've met, Kai and John, for example, they're the nicest people ever. And you want to hang out with them. You want to ask them questions, and you're never embarrassed to be around them or feel like you're fangirling over them, because, once you realize they're just really nice people, your respect for them goes up even more. So going to this event, I always told myself, one day I'm going to, hopefully be in that category, or hopefully be in that division of, inductees into the Hall of Fame. And for me, that's kind of just a lifelong ocean goal that I have, just like I'm sure most of the people in the Hall of Fame also had. So, that if one day that happens, that'd be super cool. And if it doesn't happen, that's okay too. But that's a long-term goal of mine. And also, I think acknowledging where you come from. I'm fair skin. I'm not native Hawaiian. I'm half Asian, half Caucasian, or half Haole. And being fair skin, white person in Hawaii, very quickly you have a target on your back as Haole. But there's this thing where no matter, you can't control your skin color, you can't control what you look like, but you can control how you act and how you present yourself, right? So, and since you can control that, why not make the effort to learn about the place you're from, take pride in the place you're from, and learn how to respect the ocean and respect individuals your people who are older than you. So having this, I remember in school growing up, they would always tell you, all my Hawaiian studies teachers have a Hawaiian mindset. And that is, even though you can't control your skin color, how you look, you can still act in the most respectable, honorable way, no matter what your age is, right? So if that means acting like a Hawaiian or having that mindset of acting in an honorable, respectable way. If you're older, that means being a good example for the younger people. And if you're young like me, that means looking up to the older people and having the most respect for them in the best way possible, because the last thing you want is disrespectful people. I don't tolerate that at all. And so every day try your best to, even if you don't look the part, you got to still act the part, and you got to, you got to act and carry yourself in the best manner. So I think
that's great advice for anybody in and out of the water. But if you're looking at young surfers or new surfers or foilers, it's a great mindset. And I think that is something that's very important when you're traveling and visiting new cultures. And
definitely.
Because that's not something that everybody gets to do at 20 years old, or like 14 or 15 or 16 years old. That's amazing.
I think that's helped a lot. And that doesn't mean that, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I screw up all the time. I make mistakes all the time, right? I still disappoint friends and family, and that's just part of it, but as long as you have that, that goal of yours to carry yourself in the best manner every day. I think a lot of my friends who I grew up going to school with, believe it or not, it sounds like the easiest thing to do, but it's extremely hard to do. And I've seen my friends make some really poor decisions, and or even worse, make decisions that they think are totally okay, but really they're far from okay. And that lack of judgment really just comes from who you're surrounded by when you're young, your parents, the friends, the family, the uncles and aunties. And for me, I just got lucky to be surrounded by such excellent people in my life that have given me a direct vision of what's okay and what's not okay. And also seeing that you can get to a certain place and you can achieve all your dreams and goals by being a good person and by trying your best to be the best self every day. So that's kind of what motivates me, is seeing all these people achieve great things just by doing that. And, like I said, I'm not the best surfer. I'm not the best foiler. I'm not the best in the world at anything.
Have you seen your YouTube videos, man?
Yeah. I
shredding gnar.
Thanks. I do a decent job at it, but I feel like, being the best at something, it's never going to get you far, or it might get you far, but being good at connecting with people, being good at, making others feel welcome, feel good, and being a nice person, that's what's going to get you farther than anyone else. And that's kind of what my dad always told me is, be authentic, be real, be nice, be kind. And and one
day you'll look this good shredding this wave, and the swell there's absolutely amazing, isn't it?
Oh, it's good.
Absolutely unreal.
And I think even more than, whether you are able to, surf good or, surf the best one day or not, no one's going to remember this little Instagram reel of me ripping the river, but the people are going to remember the way you made them feel, right? And it kind of goes along the lines of, I got bullied growing up, just like I'm sure every kid got bullied. That's part of growing up, but I don't remember what the bullies said to me or the words they said to me, but I remember how sad they made me feel and how bummed out they made me feel. And my goal is, I never want to make anyone feel that way ever, because I just remember coming home from school crying because the older guys were bullying me or whatever. And 10 years later, I don't remember what they were bullying me about, but I remember still that moment of crying in the bathroom at school or coming home just so sad. But also I also remember those times that some of my heroes and some of my idols gave me the time of day, and whether it was just a cool conversation. And I don't remember what that conversation was about, but I just remember how cool they made me feel. So passing that on, it's like knowing that no one's ever going to remember how good you were or how what video blew up or whatever, but they're going to remember how cool you were to them as a person. So that's kind of what carries me every day, is makes me motivated to keep going.
Well, hey, man, thanks for joining us on the show today and letting us into your world and sharing some of these stories. That was sweet.
Thanks so much. Honored to be on the show. Honored to talk story. And to my sponsors listening, grateful. Thank you guys for supporting my lifestyle. And also for the people who follow me and, leave a like or a comment or give me feedback. That's just as, that's equally as beneficial as, getting a paycheck, because, without the fans and the people who give you feedback or tell you what you're doing is great, that's the motivation right there to keep going. So thank you, everyone listening, and mahalo. Signing off.
How'd you come up with your last point? Let's tell people your handles, and how'd you come up with Jackfromtown? Where'd that come from?
Jackfromtown's a cool story. I remember before I had Instagram, my mom had Instagram like a year before I got the phone in 8th grade, so 7th grade. And I would scroll on Instagram, and I feel like you never really remember exactly what people's Instagram, like people with Instagram handles that aren't their first or last name. Sometimes you rarely remember what their Instagram handle actually is. But for me, I'm a visual learner, and I remember seeing people's Instagram handles, and if the lettering kind of looked good, or the words or basically if the lettering looked good together, I could remember their handle based on what I would see the lettering as, right? So, and I don't know if everyone can agree to that or not, but so I remember thinking, I need an Instagram handle that looks good, right? I need all those letters to be put together and look visually appealing. And one day I was writing on a piece of paper, Jack from town, just like it broke it down as I thought that Jack Ho, if you write that on paper, the K with the lowercase h, it didn't look good on the Instagram handle. I wrote out at Jack Ho, and it didn't look good. And then I would write at Jack_Ho, at Jack.Ho. And I hated how that looked on paper visually. And then I wrote Jack from town, and Honolulu, Waikiki, that's considered town on Oahu.
Oh, and, that's where it came from. So
when you say, like, oh, I'm going to go surf town, or I'm going to go hang out in town, you're referring to Honolulu, or, and town goes right up until where I live. So from where I live past is no longer town. So I'm still, and everything I do kind of revolves around town or Honolulu, right? And I wrote that down on a piece of paper, and immediately I was like, that's it. It looks really good.
That's so cool.
And it has, and I didn't even, at the time, didn't even care like, oh, it sounds good or whatever. It's just all I wanted was to look kind of cool. I was 8th grade. All you care about is looking cool, right? And
that's true.
I made that, and it took off, and now people know me as Jack from town. Some people don't even know my name is Jack Ho. They just know me as Jack from town. I mean, I was jumping off the rocks doing a downer yesterday, and I hear, oh, it's Jack from town. I was like, bro, like, my name's Jack Ho. Like, my name's not Jack from town, but it's cool because it kind of caught on, and it's just like a funny, at this point, it's like a nickname that's going to stick with me for the rest of my life. But I always thought that's a cool story. Yeah. But thanks for asking.
Definitely is. Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. We will chat with you soon. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Right on. Mahalo.